Tonight, British servicemen and women are engaged from air, land and sea. Their mission? To remove Saddam Hussein from power and disarm Iraq of its weapons of mass destruction.
179 British military personnel died in the US-led invasion and occupation of Iraq. The decision to go to war followed numerous claims that Saddam Hussein was creating weapons of mass destruction, claims that later turned out to be false. In 2009, Gordon Brown, the leader of the then governing Labour Party, announced an inquiry looking into the causes of Britain's involvement in the Iraq War. The investigation is led by retired civil servant John Chilcot.
I propose that we should sit in silence for a few moments.
It aims to address issues including public criticism of the case made for war.
No one's on trial here. We cannot determine guilt or innocence. Only courts can do that. But I make a commitment here that once we get to our final report, we will not shy away from making criticisms, either of institutions or processes or individuals, where they are truly warranted.
The inquiry heard evidence from a variety of witnesses, including politicians, senior civil servants, and high-ranking military officers.
Tony Blair is a liar! Tony Blair is a liar!
Set against a backdrop of anti-war demonstrations, in 2011, Tony Blair returned to the inquiry for a second round of questions.
I should like to start by welcoming our witness.
Blair was recalled after witnesses raised doubts about his previous testimony.
Do you think it was clear?
And he was pushed by panel member Roderick Lyne as to whether his government knew that military preparations were underway.
Yes, of course.
And that they were taking collective responsibility for this policy?
Of course they were taking collective responsibility for the policy because it was being outlined the entire time, and they knew that you can't simply decide.
But they didn't know the military preparations. They didn't know the military preparations.
I would have been astonished if they didn't, because there was discussion of that.
The Chilcot inquiry has taken more than 7 years. That's nearly as long as the Iraq War. Chilcot told lawmakers in 2015 that the more than 2 million word report would be published in June or July of 2016. He said the scope of the inquiry was unprecedented and that it had taken a long time to agree what sensitive government documents the inquiry was allowed to use. That included correspondence between Blair and the then President George Bush.
He's a man who obviously has something to hide. He told the world that he would show us that he would not develop weapons of mass destruction. And yet, over the past decade, he's refused to do so.
Some of the families of those killed in the conflict have publicly complained about how long it's taken. Speaking in October 2015, Matthew Jury, a lawyer representing 29 families of British soldiers killed in Iraq, said in a statement, "Until Sir John's report is finally published, their suffering will continue."